Hey, I'm Travis with TBT Racing, and today I'm going to show you guys how to service a set of 4CS forks. First thing you need is a clean workspace. You need a cap tool, you need a 17 millimeter Allen wrench for the bottom, a thin 19 millimeter end wrench, flat blade screwdriver with a soft end on it, and your seals, bushings, oil, and other parts you might need. Make sure your vise has got a set of soft jaws on it. Wilton sells them. They're amazing. We're going to start with loosening the cap. Then drain the fork out. You're not going to get all the oil out of the fork right now. We want to just get as much as you can out of the upper part of the cartridge. Okay, so now that all the oil's drained out of our fork on the upper cartridge, I'm going to put the fork back in the vise here. Use the 17 millimeter. Loosen that up. Take the base valve assembly out, then stand the fork up, drain out the lower cartridge. Then while you hold the top of the fork, bang that down and that'll loosen the inner assembly up. I'll take that out of the fork. And let that finish draining. So I like to service the seals and bushings in the outer tubes while the inner cartridge is draining. So take a screwdriver, pop the dust seal loose. Then on the inside of here there's a clip and it's got a little end on it here. Take your screwdriver, come in here and pop that loose. Take the clip out, and then gently just pop those apart. Then we're going to take some Maxima suspension clean, rinse down the insides of the tubes, then blow them out with air. Hold the fork up to some light and you can look down the inside diameter of it and you can see look down the bore of the fork and make sure that there's no dings or dents from the outside that are affecting the inside. Then we'll rinse the inside of the lower tube and blow it with air also. Then using flat blade screwdriver you can take the upper bushing off. The guide bushing and your seals. Then we want to inspect the lower stanchion tube for damage. Run your hands down it, feel it. If you feel anything, a little nick or a burr, something sharp, you can go ahead and take a flat file, good high quality flat file, and you can run that on the fork tube and you will not damage the fork tube. Cut the high spot off. Then take some 600 grit paper and you can utilize it back and forth this way to polish the fork tube up. Make sure that it's nice and smooth so it doesn't tear up your new seals. Okay, now that our lower tube is all prepared, take our new dust seal, put that on the fork. Take our new oil seal, use a little bit of Maxima blue grease. Lots of places sell seal lube and seal grease and different stuff. We've been using this Maxima blue grease for about 30 years on fork seals and found that it works just dandy. Then I always prefer to put the rounded edge of the washer towards the seal. So then we're going to inspect the bushings. You want to look at the inside of the guide bushing, check the Teflon on it, make sure it's not gritty to the touch, that it's slippery, that there's no aluminum stuck in it, and it's not worn out. If the bushings look worn or you have any doubts, just replace them with OEM bushings. Do not use aftermarket bushings because the sizing on them is wrong and your forks will feel super sticky. Also, on the OD of a Japanese bushing and the ID of most all piston bushings, there's a brown coating in there, and that is a wear indicator. This fork bushing's got about 15% wear on it right now. That gives me an indication of the lifespan of this part. So put the bushing on, then take the upper fork tube and put it together with the lower fork tube. Take a seal driver, and gently tap the oil seal in to where you can see the clip groove. So now that we've got the seal tapped all the way down, put the retaining clip back in. If you push the ends of it in together, then I use a half of the seal driver to make sure that it's tapped down into place. Then push the dust seal down with your thumbs and check it for nice smooth movement. So that's all ready to go back together now. Okay, so now we're going to take the inner cartridge apart. And gently hold the tube. Almost all the threads on the suspension are righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you have any questions, call your local TBT shop. We'll be glad to help you out. So we'll take the cap off, take the fork spring off. So now we're going to remove the spring guide from the damping rod. And then the dampening rod will slide right out of the cartridge. All right, now that we've got our fork completely disassembled and cleaned, it's time to reassemble it. We'll put the dampening cartridge back together first. Just drop this rod down inside here. Put the spring guide back on. Inspected all the O-rings, made sure everything is proper on here. I like to flip the fork upside down with the spring like this. And then install the outer tube. I'm going to pop that O-ring past there. Then I'll set it on the ground. Then start with a full ratio right cup of oil. And fill the inner cartridge the best you can, getting You're basically going to fill this as full as you can get it without making a mess. And this just saves you in the bleeding process later here. So we're going to put most of a ratio right of oil into the fork. If you get a little too much in there, you can drop some out like that. Just right at the holes, and put the base valve assembly back in. And reinstall the base valve assembly. Then we're going to flip the fork back over. Take the spring out of the way. Put the rest of the oil in the top side here. Install the cap just loosely. Snug the cap down. Then remove the air bleeder screw. And we're going to take compressed air on your air blower and blow air into the fork, and this is going to transfer the rest of the oil down into the lower cartridge. And you want to make sure the oil is still above the seal housing, and that when you push the rod down, the rod comes back up. Then you can take your oil height gauge and set your oil height between 80 and 110. So we're going to rest the fork cap on top of the spring. Take a tape measure and measure from the outer tube to the fork cap sealing surface. It's 310 millimeters. Then thread the cap down all the way on the dampening rod. Take your thin 19 millimeter, snug this up. Then measure this again. We're at 304 millimeters, which tells us we have 6 millimeters of spring preload. Tighten the fork cap down. Reinstall the bleeder screw. Set your clicker. Go ahead and zero it out. And there you have it. Fully rebuilt 4CS fork. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure to visit www.tbtracing.com for more video resources, parts, and accessories for your engine and suspension tuning needs. Thank you.